So, this is the chapter on the face of it by Susan Hill. Uh, this is a play featuring an old man and a small boy meeting in the farmer's garden. The old man strikes up a friendship with the boy, who is very withdrawn and defiant. Now, what is the bond that unites the two? Scene 1. It starts in Mr. Lamb's garden. There is occasional sound of bird song and of tree leaves rustling kharkharahat, that is what we say it in Hindi. There is footsteps are heard as he walks slowly and tentatively, hesitating. He is very much hesitant because uh, he wants to make sure whether there is anyone present around or not. He pauses and then walks on again. He comes round a screen of bushes so that when Mr. Lamb speaks to him, he is close at hand, and there he is startled. And so from here, the play starts. Now, Mr. Lamb, who observes Derry coming over there, he simply asks him that whether he wants apples. He says, "Mind the apples." Now, look at the reaction of Derry. Derry is completely shocked and surprised because he had not expected anyone to be present over there. He felt that the garden was empty, a secluded place, and that's why he had decided to come over there. Now, when Mr. Lamb calls him from back, Derry just reacts. What? Who is that? Who is there? Now, Mr. Lamb, he looks at the startled condition of the boy, so he just tells him that Lamb is my name. If you want to have apples, those are crab apples. But he also cautions him that he has to be very careful because in the long grasses he could not see what is down under and he may fall down. Derry says he thought that it was an empty place and that was the reason that he had come. He says that I didn't know there was anybody here. So Mr. Lamb tries to make him comfortable by saying that, okay, that's all right, I am here. So what are you afraid of, boy? That's all right. I thought it was empty, an empty house. So Mr. Lamb gives a very funny reply to that. Yes, it is. And why he says that it was an empty house? Because he says that since I am out here in the garden, it is empty. Until I go back inside, in the meantime, I am out here and likely to stop. A day like this, beautiful day, not a day to be indoors. Yes, he says that there he was correct. The house was empty because he was not there in the house. And it will be empty till he goes inside, and he had no intention of going inside. The weather was outside very fantastic. Derry becomes a little panicky. He is worried. He is scared. He says that he has to go. So Mr. Lamb says that, okay, fine, if he has to go, he can go. But not because Mr. Lamb is present over there. So Mr. Lamb says to Derry that he does not mind who comes into his garden because his gate is always open. Only he was the one who climbed the garden wall. Now Derry becomes very angry. He feels that Mr. Lamb was spying on him. So he says, okay, you were watching me. Mr. Lamb says, yes, I saw you. But then it was a little surprising. Why? Because he says that his gate is always open, everyone is welcome there. He always waits for the people to come over there. So Derry now gives a clarification. Derry says that he had not come there to steal anything. And Mr. Lamb says, yes. Here's only the younger ones, the little kids, they come in the garden with an intention of stealing apples or something like that. And Derry was not so young. Derry says that he just wanted to come into the garden. So you did. Here we are then. You don't know who I am. Boy, 13 or so, 14. But I have to go now. Goodbye. Again, Mr. Lamb tries to make him comfortable. Nothing to be afraid of, just the garden, just me. And when Mr. Lamb says that there is nothing to be afraid of, Derry says, but I am not afraid. People are afraid of me. Says that he is not scared, he is not afraid. It is other way around. People are afraid of him. So Mr. Lamb asks, why should that be? So there he says everyone is afraid of him. It doesn't matter who they are or what they say or how they look or how they pretend. He says that he can see that they are afraid of him. Mr. Lamb then asks him, what you see that makes you feel that people are afraid of you? So there he says what the thing. There he says that he can see what the people are thinking. So Mr. Lamb says, okay, fine, then tell me, what do they think then? There he says, you think here is a boy, you look at me, and then you see my face, and you think, that's bad. That's a terrible thing. That's the ugliest thing I ever saw. You think, poor boy, but I am not. Not poor. Underneath, you are afraid. Anybody would be. I am. When I look in the mirror and see it, I am afraid of me. When people look at me, Derry says that when people look at him, he can very well see that they are afraid of him. They think that he's a poor boy. They try to sympathize with him. But Derry says that he's not poor. He feels that people try to sympathize him because underneath they are scared of him. And Derry says that there is nothing unnatural about it because anybody would be scared of him looking at him. He says that even he is afraid of himself. When he looks when he sees himself, he is scared of himself. Now just try to understand the feeling of a boy, a 14-year-old boy, who is constantly living with this particular feeling that there is something scary about him. There is something fearful about him. He is afraid of looking at his own face. Something is wrong with his face, and that is what is the feeling that this boy is constantly living with. When he describes all this thing, Mr. Lamb, he just says, okay, fine. Your face may be, but not the whole of you, not of you. Then there is a little pause. And then Mr. Lamb once again starts up the conversation. But instead of talking about Derry's face or Derry being fearful, he starts talking something else. Later on, when it's a bit cooler, I'll get the ladder and a stick and pull down those crab apples. They are ripe for it. I make jelly. It's a good time of year, September. Look at them, orange and golden. That's magic fruit. I often say, but it's best picked and made into jelly. You could give me a hand. Now, what was the conversation before? The conversation before was related to Derry, but Mr. Lamb is not at all talking about Derry. He's talking about his own apple. He's talking that what he will be doing with his apple. He considers that those apples as magic fruit, and he says that he will make jelly out of it. He will bring a ladder and a stick, and then he will try to pick the apples, and when they are golden and ripe, and then he will make jelly out of it. And he even tells to Derry that if he feels he can give him a helping hand. Now, generally what happens is that when you are talking of something and there is a gap and the person who is listening to you does not continue with the conversation which was earlier but picks up or starts up a new conversation, there's a general feeling that the person is trying to avoid the topic, avoid the subject. Same was the reaction of Derry. He says that, what have you changed the subject for? He feels that Mr. Lamb has intentionally changed the subject. He says that people always do that. People always do that. They change the subject. They don't continue with the discussion about him. He tells Mr. Lamb that why doesn't he ask what about his face and something like that? Why is he pretending that he has not seen anything if that thing is not there? And then Derry says that maybe because he is scared, maybe because he is upset looking at his face or something like that. When Derry insists so much, Mr. Lamb says, okay, fine, you want to say, okay, tell. There he says, I don't like being with people, any people. Mr. Lamb says, okay, fine, fine, fine. Looking at you, it seems that you got burned in fire. There he says, not in a fire. I got acid all down that side of my face, and it burned it all away. It ate my face up. It ate me up. And now it's like this, and it won't ever be any different. So, what was the cause for there is burned face? The acid fell on that part of his face. And look at what the boy says. It ate my face up. It destroyed my face. But then he says that it not only destroyed his face, it ate me up. There he feels that everything is over for him. That accident has not only destroyed his face, but it has completely destroyed him. And what he says, it will be always like this. There will be no change at all. Now, a 14-year-old boy, constantly with that feeling that something terrible has happened to him, which is irreversible, which cannot be changed. And with the feeling that his entire life is destroyed. Just try to understand the pain of that young boy. Mr. Lamb says, yes, no. It will remain the same. It will not change. Now, Mr. Lamb does not show any curiosity, any interest at all. He's quite indifferent. Maybe Derry has met for the first time someone who was so indifferent to him. He's little surprised. He asks Mr. Lamb, aren't you interested? Mr. Lamb says, you are a boy who came into the garden. Plenty do. You are just like any other boy coming into my garden. There are many boys who come to his garden. He says that he is interested in anybody, anything. There's nothing God made that doesn't interest me. Look at this wonderful line. What he says. There's nothing God made that doesn't interest me. He says that every creation of God is a thing of interest for him. And then he draws his attention towards a particular direction. Ask him to see what he finds there. There he looks at that place. He says, rubbish, rubbish, useless, kachara. Mr. Lamb says, rubbish, surprise, rubbish, rubbish. Oh boy, look carefully. What do you see? There he says, just grass and stuff, weeds, unwanted vegetation. Mr. Lamb says, some call them weeds. Now this particular dialogue has to be understood very, very carefully. Some call them weeds. If you like, then a weed garden. Okay, fine. Some people call that vegetation weed, unwanted. If you feel, you can call that part of my garden as weed garden. There's fruit and there are flowers and trees and herbs. All sorts. There are variety of vegetation over there in his garden. But he says, over that place, he grows weed. Then he puts up a very, very important question. Why is one green growing plant called a weed and another flower? Where's the difference? It's all life, growing. Why is one green growing plant called weed? Useless. Nobody likes it. Nobody pays any attention to it. Whereas another plant, green plant, growing plant with life in it, everyone calls it flower and everyone loves it. What he is actually pointing out to is pointing towards the perception, the outlook, how people look at the things. He says that where is the difference? It is all life. It is all life and it is growing. Same as you and me. But there he says that we are not the same. How can you say that we are same? So Mr. Lamb says, okay, fine. What is the difference? I am old. You are young. You have got a burned face. I have got a tin leg. Not important. You are standing there. I am sitting here. Where is the difference? Mr. Lamb says, okay, fine. You find the difference only in the age, that he is old and the boy is young. The boy has got a burn face and he has got one artificial leg. And for the first time, we come to know that Mr. Lamb is handicapped and he has got one leg artificial, one tin leg. He says that, but that he clearly mentions that that is not important for him whether his leg is artificial or not. And then he further says that there is standing and he is sitting. He says that where is the difference? Now Derry certainly becomes very much interested because he has come to know that Mr. Lamb does not have one leg, natural leg. So he asks, "Why have you got a tin leg? What is the reason? Why you have got the artificial leg?" So Mr. Lamb says, "A real one got blown off years back. Maybe in war or in an explosion, his real leg got blown off. Lay me lamb, some kids say. Haven't you heard them? You will. Lay me lamb, it fits, doesn't trouble me. Haven't you heard the kids? Mr. Lamb says that when he goes in the street, the little kids, they start calling him Lay me lamb, shouting after him. Mr. Lamb says that he does not mind it. He does not mind it. He feels that the name suits him, the name fits him. Now, till this part, we have seen the introduction of the two characters. One, Derry, who is full of uh, a feeling that everything is over for him. He has not accepted what has happened to him. His mind is not accepting it. Whereas Mr. Lamb has already accepted it, and in fact, he does not even pay any attention to his own handicap. And he finds things and looks at the things in a different way.